As a House panel begins investigating whether the agency charged with regulating offshore drilling, the same people that regulate those mines that we saw those folks die in not too long ago, the Minerals Management Service failed to make sure that this oil rig was safe. Joining us now, California Congressman Issa, the ranking minority member of the Government Reform Committee. He is leading the call to investigate the Minerals Management Service. Congressman Issa, welcome back to the program. Have you launched this investigation on speculation that there may have been an issue or on evidence?
Well, on evidence to a great extent, not just their past performance and past investigations or the 9 IG reports and 9 GAO studies that haven't been heeded, but also as recently as September 9th when NOAA reported that they had unrepaired oil wells around the Gulf that were seeping, and yet there seems to have been nothing done. So it's pretty clear that MMS over the last decade and a half that we've been looking at various events isn't changing and won't change without serious reform.
And specifically, do you believe that the Minerals Management Service, not unlike other regulators, financial regulators, for instance, is too willing to accommodate the individuals they're supposed to be regulating?
Well, you know, in 2008, cozy got a whole new meaning when one of the regulators got pregnant at the, we'll use the word, hands of one of the lobbyists they were supposed to keep an eye on. It's very, very clear that MMS is dysfunctional and has continued to be dysfunctional in Colorado and right in the Gulf. Even their contract writing has allowed us to lose tens of billions of dollars of revenue and never get it back. Today, if you asked MMS how much revenue they were supposed to get from a particular well, they couldn't tell you. They have to rely on the oil companies to tell them how much they're going to get.
There's been a specific series of questions about the safety equipment required in the Gulf of Mexico when compared to the North Sea, which has higher standards and different devices that are mandatory if you want to do deep water drilling in the North Sea and are not mandatory in the Gulf Coast. Do you view the failure for MMS to mandate that type of equipment as part of this culture of looking the other way or weak enforcement?
Well, absolutely. First of all, the fact that they simply said you had to have 2 shutoffs, in other words, a redundant system, without specifying one, even after they had a 2003 report that called into question the so-called dead man switch, whether it was reliable. And the acoustic switch is not necessarily proven. You know, we're such a large and wealthy country, one in which tens of billions of dollars of money comes in from these resources, that you would think that a large amount would be put into safety standards, safety development, and the legitimate oversight. But just the opposite. We rely on the oil companies to develop and to install these, and we do very little checking. As I said, even when NOAA reports that there's unrepaired areas and seepage, it appears as though MMS is simply blind and deaf.
One last question. At the root of the disease, if you will, is conflict of interest among those who are supposed to be in the rulemaking body for our largest and most relevant institutions. What do you view as the seat or the root solution to that obvious and ongoing failure, not just with MMS, but elsewhere in our government?
Well, first of all, I think that we need to change the revolving door, the ability for people to work at MMS one day and very quickly move into industry for double or triple the salary, which happens all the time. Secondly, MMS can't be all things to all people. It should come out from underneath the Department of Interior. It should be like the IRS, responsible for revenue generation and for reporting. And the Department of Interior needs to be very, very diligent in protecting our wildlife, our wetlands, and all of our natural resources. And they should be as hard on MMS as Congress has tried unsuccessfully to be for about 2 decades.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say that those rules apply to agencies beyond MMS?
Oh, absolutely. But I think it's a unique conflict of interest when you're dealing with 2 critical areas, the safety to the environment and the revenue. This is the second largest revenue source to the federal government after the IRS. So it's very clear. The stakes are high. This is an organization that brings in enough revenue to pale, by comparison, any procurement officer at DOD. And we've been looking at that with many questions for years. But this should be the first place that people understand, if you're going to oversee these people, illegal, you cannot go to work for them, not a year, not 5 years, not 10 years after. Otherwise, it's very clear you're lobbying your own colleagues successfully, and that's what's been happening over there.
All right, listen, thank you, Congressman, and you really should send that memo over to the SEC. I swear it would work there.